She told me love shouldn't feel like a burden, so I let go and never looked back. We met in a bookstore. Cliché, I know, but sometimes life imitates fiction a little too well. She was standing in the philosophy section, flipping through a copy of The Unbearable Lightness of Being, looking like she was trying to make sense of something much bigger than the words on the page. I made a stupid joke about the title, and to my surprise, she laughed. Her name was Mira. She had that kind of quiet intensity that made you want to lean in every time she spoke, like her words carried extra weight. We talked about books for almost an hour right there in the aisle. A week later, we were grabbing coffee, then dinner, then falling asleep on the phone like teenagers, even though we were both in our late 20s. For a while, it was perfect. I mean, I really thought I'd found it, the kind of love people write songs and novels about. She was smart, warm, passionate about things that mattered. She taught at a local high school, ran a weekend reading club for underprivileged kids, and somehow still made time to check in with her aging parents every day. Loving her felt like plugging into something larger than myself. Like being near her made me better. But perfect never lasts, right? I think the cracks started to show around month 8. Nothing explosive, no cheating, no screaming matches, no storming out. Just erosion. The small kind. The kind that wears you down because it's so subtle, you don't even notice until you're standing knee-deep in the rubble of what used to be effortless. I began to feel like I was failing some invisible test. Mira never asked for much, not directly, anyway. But there was this underlying expectation that I should just get things. Like when she was upset after a long day, and I asked what was wrong, she'd say, "Nothing. It's fine." In that way that obviously meant it wasn't. And when I didn't press hard enough, she'd grow distant. Quiet. Disappointed. I started second-guessing everything. Every text, every gesture, every word out of my mouth. I'd spend hours replaying our conversations, trying to figure out what I could have said better, what I missed. She never said it outright, but I felt like loving her meant constantly proving I was worthy of her time. Like I was walking on eggshells to maintain this ideal version of myself she had fallen for. The funny, attentive guy from the bookstore. And the thing is, I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be enough. But love, real love, isn't supposed to feel like performance art. One night, we were sitting on the balcony of her apartment, watching traffic crawl below. She had just told me about a student who'd dropped out, someone she'd been mentoring for months. She was hurting. I tried to comfort her, offered some words about how she had done her best, how some things are beyond our control. And she just looked at me with this weary, sad expression and said, "You always try to fix things. I don't need you to fix everything. I need you to feel it with me." That moment stuck with me, not because I disagreed, but because I didn't know how anymore. I had been so busy trying not to mess up, trying to be perfect, that I'd stopped being present. About a week after that, we had our last real conversation. She said, love shouldn't feel like a burden. She didn't say it with anger. She didn't need to. Just a quiet truth between two people who had loved each other as best they could, but maybe not in the ways they actually needed. And that's when I knew. If it felt like a burden to her, maybe it was time I let go. The day after she said it, love shouldn't feel like a burden, I didn't sleep much. Her words played in loops in my head, like some sad refrain. I kept wondering if I'd misunderstood, if it was one of those sentences you say when you're overwhelmed, but don't really mean. But deep down, I knew she meant it. She meant every word. We didn't break up immediately. No dramatic exit, no slammed doors, no thrown coffee mugs. Just distance. A widening space between us that neither of us tried to bridge. We still texted, still exchanged the occasional, "How was your day?" But there was a hollowness in those messages, like two coworkers trying to make small talk in an elevator after a long, uncomfortable meeting. I tried to fix things at first. I made a dinner reservation at her favorite Thai place, brought over her favorite wine, even wrote her a long letter, something I hadn't done since the early days of our relationship. I poured everything into that letter. Honesty, apologies, memories, hope. She read it. She hugged me afterward. She even cried a little. But then she said something that hit harder than anything else. "I know you love me." I never doubted that. But I feel like I'm always being loved at instead of loved with. I didn't even know how to respond. I sat there, stunned, trying to untangle what that even meant. Loved at. I thought loving her with everything I had was the whole point. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe I was loving her in ways that made me feel secure, instead of figuring out how she actually needed to be loved. And to be fair, she wasn't perfect either. Mira had this tendency to retreat into herself when things got heavy. She expected me to read between the lines, to pick up on subtext like a mind reader. She'd get upset when I didn't just know what was wrong, and she rarely gave me space to explain my side without getting defensive. But the thing is, even her flaws, I loved them too. Or at least I tried to. I never wanted to keep score. I just wanted to make it work. After that conversation, we spent a weekend apart. I went to visit my brother 2 towns over and told Mira I'd give her space. He and his wife were just finishing a kitchen renovation, and I spent most of Saturday helping him install cabinet handles and pretending my world wasn't quietly collapsing. I told him what was happening. He listened in that older brother way with patience, but no frills. When I finished, he said, "Sounds like you're both carrying this thing like it's a suitcase full of bricks. And now you're mad at each other for being tired." That hit harder than I expected. When I got back Sunday night, I stopped by Myra's place. She opened the door, surprised to see me. No hug this time. I handed her a small notebook, the same one we used to pass back and forth early in the relationship, where we wrote down our favorite quotes and thoughts. On the last page, I had written, "Maybe love should be heavy sometimes, but it shouldn't break you." She read it slowly. Then she looked at me, eyes glassy, and said, "I know. That's the thing. It has been breaking me." And I nodded, not because I agreed, but because I understood. That was the last time I saw her. Not with anger. Not even with sadness. Just two people standing in the wreckage of what once felt like a forever. It's been 5 months since Mira and I ended things. I still think about her when I walk past that bookstore where we met. The philosophy section, in particular, has become a kind of personal no-go zone. Like some sacred site I'm not allowed to revisit. Too many ghosts. Too many what-ifs. The first few weeks were rough. Not the dramatic kind of heartbreak you see in movies, with sobbing and rain-soaked monologues. Just a quiet, gnawing emptiness. Everything felt off balance. Mornings were the worst. I'd wake up expecting a good morning text, or her voice in my head reminding me not to skip breakfast. The silence hit different when it came from someone who used to fill so much space in your life. I didn't jump back into dating. Honestly, I couldn't even picture myself trying. I needed time to understand how something that once felt so right became so heavy. I started journaling, something Mira had always encouraged me to do. I finally took it seriously. Pages filled with guilt, confusion, bits of clarity. I began to realize how much pressure I had put on myself to perform love, instead of just being in it. And I also had to admit, she was right, in her own way. Love shouldn't feel like a burden. But that doesn't mean it's always light or easy. It just means it should be carried together. Shared. Not something one person lugs around while the other quietly resents the weight. I had taken it all on, thinking I was being noble, the fixer, the emotional anchor. But in doing that, I'd left no room for Mira to carry anything herself. She didn't want a savior. She wanted a partner. I still have the notebook. The one we used to pass back and forth. I flip through it sometimes, not in a bitter, nostalgic way, but like revisiting an old chapter of a book you used to love. There's a quote she wrote once from Rilke. "Love consists in this, that two solitudes protect and touch and greet each other." Back then, I didn't fully get it. I do now. We were two solitudes, yes, but somewhere along the way, instead of protecting each other's quiet, we tried to fill it, drown it out, fix what didn't need fixing. A few weeks ago, I ran into her. It was random, at a farmer's market on a Sunday morning. She looked good, healthier, lighter. She smiled when she saw me, and we exchanged a brief hug. It wasn't awkward, surprisingly. It felt kind. We made small talk. She told me she'd started painting again. I told her I'd started therapy, which made her smile wider than anything else I said. When we said goodbye, there was no promise to catch up. No lingering eye contact. Just mutual respect for what we had, and for who we'd become since. And you know what? That felt like closure. Not the kind where everything gets tied up in a neat little bow, but the kind where you finally accept that some stories end, not because they were broken, but because they were finished. I'm not angry anymore. I don't feel the urge to dissect every moment, every misstep. I loved her. Deeply. She loved me too. That was real. But love isn't just about feeling deeply. It's about feeling asterisk together. And when that stops happening, when the weight isn't shared, you have two choices. Hold on until it crushes you, or drop it so you both can breathe again. I chose the second. And for the first time in a long time, I think I finally understand what she meant. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.